She's live. What is up, guys? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. What is good? How we doing? We good?
Listen, folks, I know there's a history here. I'd like to get this hearing in today. You know, everybody needs to just focus on the relevant facts, okay? I know there's a history here.
What is up to the transparency?
Are you talking up by Sunset Mart? Up the hill by the gas station?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at that background. Oh, hell no. Johnny's in here. Johnny Lunch. Bucket. It's gonna be a good live. It's about to be lit. Tried to go shopping today. Total fail.
All right. Who's responsible here? Who's responsible here? Whose house is this?
Yeah, I've been drinking or anything, right?
No.
Okay. Drive careful, okay?
Thank you.
This is what the other group had that ran away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just ditched it? Awesome.
Yeah, those ones kept walking in the car. And the other one.
It's Truly's for the win.
Truly's. Some whiskey for our throats. Ugh. I almost made this members only.
Disc that I was given to. So there was 2 different discs. Okay? They all knew about it.
I pushed this back. Want you guys to be nice and toasty for it. All right, guys, what is good? What is good? Let's use some brains today. I'm gonna bring the heat. Everything is
We're not here to talk about the alcohol stuff, okay?
Okay, yeah.
But this is the second noise complaint we've had here tonight within 2 hours.
How are you? Good. Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And ice noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Big speaker right there.
Yeah.
Nothing against having a party. Once neighbors start calling in, then we have an issue.
Like brains, and like if you
boom. Again, how we doing? Check this shit out. I got some exhibits. But anyways, happy Thanksgiving, guys. Let's do this. Happy Thanksgiving to all the members, the moderators, the subscribers. I wanted to talk about some true crime here for about an hour. I'm going to zip through this because I want to talk about a lot of things. For those of you guys that don't know about the Drake case, Brian Drake was a chiropractor. 46 years old back in 2020. Brian Drake was married to a woman named Jennifer Drake. They have 4 kids. Okay. Brian Drake, a chiropractor, bounced around, he was Mississippi, was in Montana, married Jennifer about 20 years ago from 2020. Had a chiropractic practice in Austin in the early to mid 2000s. They had a little hiccup in Austin around 2012, 8, 9, 2012. Brian Drake, very good looking guy. He likes to be a little touchy-feely, handsy, touching. I think he might like that song by, what's it? I think it's by Journey, touching, squeezing. But made some inappropriate comments to some patients or about some patients about their asses being just so fine. So needless to say, one of the patients from Austin went ahead and was going to sue Drake and obviously for obvious reasons, and HIPAA was involved, talking about some patient files, but more or less talking about, God, how do you handle all that ass? Total inappropriate comments that your chiropractor is talking about your ass, wanting to get all up in that ass. Well, Jennifer Drake, clearly no wife is going to like that, hears about that, but you get a letter saying, hey, we're going to sue you, but also like we're going to report you to the board. So they attempted to handle that outside of, let's do some settlement. Can we keep this hush hush? Now, Jennifer and Brian maintained this amazing, it was all about image. It was all about, we are a Christian family, our kids, prim and proper. We do so much stuff with the church. We're on worship team. We taught Bible study with the kids, all the things. It was really, really important for Jennifer Drake to have this image that they were this amazing, perfect, happy couple, had no issues. They portrayed themselves as the all-American family, the all-American relationship. Brian had an issue with porn, allegedly. Brian loves sex, he's addicted. He's like a Tiger Woods. Wants to have sex all the time, needs to have sex all the time. So Jennifer admits that obviously after 4 kids and you go through different times in your life, and sex just wasn't totally on the brain and wasn't like a priority, and did her husband basically stray because of that. Regardless, I totally don't give 2 shits about that. But Jennifer obviously did. She wanted Brian to seek some counseling, maybe therapy, maybe they could do it together. What they ended up doing was something that's very, very interesting to me, is Brian ends up counseling one of his good friends just like a year before his death, his murder, who had a porn addiction. And Brian, of all people, here, his wife does not let him have Google, is not letting him use the internet because then you could get on these sites. So he had a phone that was like locked down. It didn't allow for certain apps to be on his phone. It wouldn't allow him to be on the internet. His Google was disabled. Yeah, this is what she was saying in an interview. And I was like, how is that even possible? But then my brain immediately said, wow, was she truly wanting Google to be disabled because she truly cared about the porn? Or was it more about so that Brian's phone didn't have data, meaning health data, your steps, your floor, how many steps you took that day, where you went that day? But then come to find out, according to Jennifer, that they were on a Life 360 plan, the Life 360 app, which now I question, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but this is me summarizing this case for you. At the time of Brian's murder in March of 2020, it's right when COVID hit, literally the week of COVID when stuff was beginning to shut down. They made an announcement that, hey, schools are going to be shut down that next week. It was right before that St. Patrick's Day that was falling on a Monday. I remember back then with the industry that I was in, bars, restaurants, they're being shut down, entertainment businesses, senior rec centers. Those were all the things that my company that I owned, we were in, and highly affected. This affected everybody's life. COVID did. I don't care what industry you were in. This affected your everyday life to the fact of now people aren't going out nowhere near as much as they were before, if you ask me. Bars aren't. This was the biggest burn night of the year back in the day. It's not like that anymore. Bars used to be hopping and people would go out late and then come home. No, people are doing more like happy hour and going out earlier. COVID changed that. I think a lot of people saw how much money maybe they saved. Going out is expensive. Drinking out is expensive. You can go out and order food, just don't order drinks. Anyways, so the murder was March 12th, 2020, like I said, right during this COVID, right when COVID was boom, we're shutting everything down. So that's important. Leading up to the murders, to his murder, not murders. I'm just saying plural, but Delphi being 2 and Idaho 4 being multiple. But leading up to Brian Drake's murder, March 12th, leading up to that, a month before that, Brian Drake allegedly slips and falls on some ice, breaks his ankle, okay, breaks his like leg, let's just say, and has to have surgery. 6 months before that, August of 2019, Brian's back in an alleged paddle boarding accident. Fucked up his back, and he had to have, back surgery. He was out for 6 weeks of work with the back surgery back in August, leading into September of 2019. And then here in February, they said it was February 4th, that he had this, it was snowing, it was icy. He comes out of his office, he was carrying some files, and he slips and he falls, and the files come crashing down on him, and he busts his leg to the point that he has to have surgery and, have this, like this weird cast on it. This is how you guys would hear this story on a Dateline. Okay, Dateline would tell you it like how I'm saying it right now. Dateline would portray this loving family, this very close-knit Christian family that goes to church on Sundays, has their friends that they have are all within the church, that they, their kids are in sports, piano lessons, that they don't go out, that they have their small knit group, and they just live this simple life. Jennifer is basically a stay-at-home mom taking care of the kids, and Brian Drake has this successful chiropractic, practice in business. That's how this would be portrayed on like a Dateline. Okay. Now, welcome to the transparency, because this is not fucking Dateline. Also, it would be portrayed is that, oh my God, who could ever want to hurt Brian Drake? Brian Drake's this awesome guy. If you go and you ask his friends, and then you come to find out that he really doesn't have any, he doesn't have that many friends. He has his patients who you would consider like acquaintances, but they're still patients. And so he truly has just like these couples, 3 very close couples. That's who they hang out with. And Brian Drake, according to Jennifer Drake, has 0 women friends. She's like, nope, none. Nope, Brian doesn't hang out with women, period. That's how she said it in an interview, and I was dying. I was like, dude, this broad's whack, man. Like, that's just, I mean, anyways. Brian's practice, though, on this Dateline that you would watch, they would say Brian lives in a very nice home. He worked to build this home that he put in Hayden, which is right outside of Coeur d'Alene, where like Kaylee's family's from. So Hayden, so he has a practice there in Hayden, and then he also has a practice in Sandpoint, which is about 45 minutes away from Coeur d'Alene, Hayden area. And then after Sandpoint, you go about 30 minutes, past Sandpoint, and you get to where Bonner's Ferry is. So when you add 45 minutes plus 30 minutes, that's how far Bonner's Ferry is away from Hayden. All right. In this lovely Dateline episode, they would tell you that Brian got up in the mornings on Mondays and would travel from Hayden all the way to Bonner's Ferry. He would see his patients in Bonner's Ferry. Brian no longer used the computer system, even though it's 2020. He just started taking credit cards for the first time in 2018. So half of his patients are paying in, cards or checks, and other people are paying in cash still. And that's going to matter. But he would have his schedule on Mondays. and see his patients in Bonners Ferry. Then he would leave his Bonners Ferry office, drive on all the way back home to Hayden. Then on Tuesday and Wednesday, he would see his people in the Hayden area where he lives. Then on Thursday, okay, he would get up early in the morning again and travel to Bonners Ferry. Okay. Let me actually back up. I'm sorry. On Monday nights, he would not drive. I take that back. He would not drive back to Hayden. He'd actually spend the night in Bonners Ferry because in the morning on Tuesday, he would drive and just stop at Sandpoint and see patients in Sandpoint and then maybe finish up if he had a couple in Hayden. So on Mondays, he'd spend the night in Bonners. And then on Thursday morning, he would get up in the morning, drive to Bonners Ferry, which is, like I said, an hour, 15 hour and a half. Maybe hour 45, depending on traffic. But the times that he was leaving, he could pretty much avoid that. But he would get to Bonners Ferry, have his appointments beginning at 9 a.m. and have a full day, okay, of patients in Bonners Ferry, and then sleep in Bonners Ferry on Thursday, Thursday night, and then wake up in the morning on Friday, and then only have to drive 30 minutes to Sandpoint, and then see people in Sandpoint. If he had to see a couple patients, maybe in Sandpoint on that Friday, and then, if he had some stuff in Hayden. And that would be his work week. No work, obviously, on Saturday and Sunday. And then here's Jennifer. She doesn't work. All right. Well, also what you're not going to find on Dateline, they're probably not going to tell you this, but I'm going to tell it to you, that I was amazed and I was shocked to find out that Brian Drake in 2019, you want to talk about tax returns, you want to talk about talking about how much money you made. If you're supposed to be, the motive in this case was that Dan Moore, who is at the time a good 10, 15, so Brian Drake was like 45, 46 when he was murdered. Probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years older, the elder Daniel Moore, who has been living in Bonners Ferry and running a chiropractic business for years. Really well known in the community, very soft-spoken. His wife is the school nurse. They have all their friends there. That's where they live. That's where they raise their kids. They've gone to high school. They're older now. So there's this Dr. Moore, and the state's case is that the reason that Brian Drake was murdered was because Daniel Moore was basically jealous of Brian Drake because Brian Drake was stealing Dr. Moore's patients, his chiropractic patients. And so Dr. Moore decided that he was going to shoot through a closed blind window and kill, and that this one lucky shot would kill Brian Drake. But no, he wasn't trying to kill him. He was just trying to scare him. This is the state's legit theory. This is their motive. And what Dateline would need to tell you, because it doesn't make any sense, is that, and then they will one day because they're going to pick this up, is that in order for any of that to be true, Brian Drake would have to have a successful business, okay? You'd have to prove that Brian Drake is in fact actually stealing Dr. Moore's patients and that Dr. Moore is not seeing people, right? Or that at least a nice chunk. Well, the tax returns show a completely different story. A story that Brian Drake is saying that he only made $70,000 in 2019. You're very welcome, Ms. Cat. Thank you for the summary. Yes. So in 2019, Brian Drake's tax returns are showing that $70,000, these are joint tax returns. Okay. Well, first of all, who can afford a family of 6? There's 2 adults and 4 children. and they're older children. You know, you got kids that are in high school. These aren't, I mean, kids are expensive, right? You have a mid six-figure house, like, you know, $450,000 house, right? So you got your mortgage, you got a bunch of bills, but the tax rate, $70,000? What? Okay. Now, either one, you're totally telling the government that you're not being honest, okay? Or number two, the state now has a huge hurdle. How in the world? Because now let's back up. In this investigation, when Brian Drake was killed in March of 2020, March 12th, 2020, there was an arrest the next day, and they let this gentleman go. And we're going to get into who that is. But then there would not be the arrest of Daniel Moore, Dr. Moore, until August 27th, 2020. So you have half of March, April, May, June, July, and then all of August, basically. So basically, let's just go ahead for easy math sakes. 6 months would go by before Dr. Moore, before search warrants were obtained. They actually obtained search warrants for different things before they ever hauled him in to question him again. Now, this really helps to have a summary. I didn't know about a lot of these things. You're very welcome. Yes, the summaries are great. You should know about the case. It's really hard to find a lot about this case because they wanted to keep it all hush hush. Now, the state's case, you would think husband is on the phone. Okay, how this all transpires is on March 12th, 2020. Brian Drake, it's a Thursday. So Brian Drake, his normal schedule is that he is in Bonners Ferry. Okay. And that he sees his patients. And then after that, he sometimes goes and works out and then maybe has a bite to eat. But then he comes back and he doesn't have an apartment out in Bonners. He actually sleeps in his office. Talk about kind of weird, you know, sitting on a couch that your chiropractor is just sleeping on the night before, you know, tossing back a bunch of beer and liquor, having God knows who up in that motherfucker and doing whatever. Swear jar dollar. So here's this Thursday, and Brian Drake has a full schedule, you know, his patients, and his wife calls. Like she said, she normally does. They talk in the evenings, and that they were talking, and that she had first called at 6:42, and he said it was only 13 seconds. And at 6:42, he notified her that he was still with patients and that he would call her back. At 7:17, Brian's phone makes a call to Jennifer Drake's cell phone. And that phone call would last for 9 minutes and 15 seconds. On that phone call, Jennifer Drake says that they're talking about, you know, obviously all the stuff with COVID. She's complaining about it. All the stuff's being canceled. They're talking about their kids, just life. And it's winding down. And, you know, he's getting ready to let her off the phone to go do, you know, wind down, that they were going to plan on talking again that night, you know, a little bit later after he got something to eat and possibly worked out. Right before they got off the phone, she says about 15 seconds before they got off the phone, he says, ouch, ow, ow, oh my God. I think I just got hit. I think someone shot me. I think I was just shot through the window. And then she's like, what are you talking about? And so she's describing this. She's on the phone with him, convenient, and that he is shot. He's at his office, and that he is shot through the window, and that all of a sudden the phone goes black. Okay. And it goes, you know, she's saying, Brian, he's not answering. So she says, well, then I had to disconnect so that I can go ahead and call. She's like, I tried to call him back, and it, you know, 3 seconds, you know, it just went straight to voicemail. She said that she tried to call a couple times. Then she, goes ahead and she calls 911. Okay. And tells 911 this. And, she's calling from her home in Hayden. So obviously, if you're going to go ahead and call 911, it's going to be where you're located to that dispatch, where you're at. And then they had to patch her through to, two different, they patched her through to Boundary County. And then they said Bonners Ferry. And then, so there was like a couple different patching through. And because of this patching through, which literally took like a minute, her call actually came in, they said, second to a 911 caller in Bonners Ferry who called 911 to report that he had heard 2 gunshots and that it came in the area across from Les Schwab. And it was a really brief 911 call. And the dispatch did not even ask who the 911 caller was, did not ask for the 911 caller's phone number, did not ask where the caller was at when making this 911 call. And it's a very, very odd 911 call. But that was, doesn't say I heard glass break, just says that he heard 2 gunshots. I don't know. I thought I should call it in. I saw somebody, it's in the area across from Les Schwab. I think I saw somebody running from the area. I don't know. It just all looks suspicious. So I'm just calling it in. And this weird call of a 911 call, what I think is the most crazy part about the 911 call is that the 911 dispatch doesn't ask who the caller is and doesn't get any information on the caller. And says, okay, I'm getting another call, so I'll just call you back if I have any other questions. And hangs up this 911, like the dispatch, just basically says, well, was the person hurt that you saw kind of running? Was there, where were they? What was the area that they were running towards? Like I said, again, very, didn't ask like, well, did you witness somebody getting shot? You heard these. Did you see somebody shooting somebody? Are you sure it wasn't fireworks? Like I said, a very, very weird 911 call. So much so that I'm going to let you listen to it right now.
What's the address of your emergency? I don't know the exact address, but it's right across the street from Les Schwab. I don't know. I just heard gunshots go off, so I thought I'd call it in. Okay, and what direction? It sounded like it came right from almost behind Far North, like in that neighborhood back there. How many? 2, I believe, is all I heard. And then I saw someone running too, and I shouted at them, and they just looked back and kept running. So. Okay, what direction did they start running? It's going like towards downtown, but they ran like back in this neighborhood back here. Okay. Did they seem injured? No, they did not, but it was just all like super suspicious, like things happened right then, so I don't know, I thought I'd call it in. Okay. Thank you. I have another 911 coming in right now. If I need anything else, I'll call you back, okay? Alright, sounds good. Yeah, bye. Bye.
No name. Okay, no name. No number. Obviously, we know that police trace stuff. We obviously know that, but it doesn't fucking matter. That's not protocol. You ask who the 911, who am I speaking with? But like I said, are you sure that it wasn't fire? Okay. Did you see somebody get shot? Are you out in the area? Can you look around? Do you see anybody like laying on the ground? Is anybody yelling for help? Okay. So this was the first 911 call on March 12th, 2020, allegedly. Okay. Now, they are saying that this call came in before Jennifer Drake's call. Now, all this time would go by, 6 months would go by, and then they decide that they're going to arrest Daniel Lee Moore, who is a chiropractor, very, very successful chiropractor who's been a chiropractor, and he has other things that, he buys real estate. He's been silent partners and things, just likes his land, likes property, likes to raise his family, does not know, has never met Dr. Drake. You cannot find anything tying those two together in any type of way. They've never met, they've never talked. They would maybe know of each other just because of, but nothing. Okay. Not the same age, nothing. Now, I didn't know about this case until I was covering the Idaho 4 case and happened to come across, I was looking into other ISP, Idaho State Police, that were involved in the Idaho 4 case because I thought that they did a shitty job. I thought it was all shit. So I started looking into the people that were involved in that case. Because of Gary Tolson's name, I was able to find this case. Okay. Now, what I've been able to uncover since the time I started looking into this is that Jennifer Drake is a big fat fucking liar, number one. Number two, that the Bonners Ferry Police Department Assistant Police Chief Marty Ryan is a liar. That Mike Van Leuven, ISP detective, is a complete fucking moron, and or involved. You should not be a detective because these people, what you're supposed to do is a husband was just murdered. Okay. A person was just murdered. And the first thing you need to do is you need to eliminate who is number one suspect here? The wife is always number one suspect. They never even, do you understand that they never searched the Drake household for any guns? Where's the search warrants for the Drake guns? What guns they owned? Do you understand that they never asked Mike Van Leuven nor Gary Tolson ever asked in a recorded interview where Jennifer Drake was on March 12th, 2020? And these are the people that would be investigating and helping in the Idaho 4 case. So when you guys are wondering with that case, like why it's so fucked, well, this case is going to tell you why it's so fucked, because you got people that are in charge of investigations that are completely fucked. They may be great people. They may not have anything to do with this crime, but they do not and should not be detectives. It's right in front of you. You for starters, your story is that this guy had a successful business and was taking all this business from Daniel Moore. Well, where are the patient files? Dr. Drake didn't even have a computer. What chiropractic company that you go to, when you go in and you just waltz in, is there no secretary? What chiropractor do you go to and that there's not another person there to make sure that, I don't know, someone's not fondling your titties, touching your booty? I mean, anytime I've went to the chiropractor, I go into an office building. there's a lovely person that's right there who's usually called the secretary, the assistant, and they take my name. Hey, how are you, Lana? Good to see you. How's your back? And I sit there in the waiting room and I'm waiting to go back and to see, either get stem treatment or to be adjusted. I have never in my life waltzed into a chiropractic building, an office with any doctor and just been one-on-one with a male physician and nobody else is there. You tell me when you've ever done it. Okay. So, when these guys were investigating right off the rip, they go and they get all the surveillance cameras in the area. This alleged shooting, like I said, happened at 7:17, 7:26. And you have this wifey poo that called in this 911 call. Well, here I come along 3 years later, and I start doing FOIA requests. And oh boy, what I get my hands on. Jennifer Drake from her cell phone never called 911 between the hours of 7 and 8 p.m. from Hayden. The FOIA request does not lie. The FOIA request came back and said that those records do not exist. Jennifer Drake did not make a 911 call between the hours of 7 and 8 p.m. Now, how hard would that be for a detective? Jennifer Drake told the detectives she did not call 911 from her cell phone and that there was just no 911. You guys called me. What? You guys called me? So the detectives say, okay, let me go ahead and can we get your phone? Sure, yeah, she hands it on over. They download the phone. Did you guys go through it? Did you guys see any of her text messages that day? How about like the month leading up to it? Anyways, they start interviewing people. Every single person that they interviewed, every single one that had an inkling to say what they thought was the reason that this happened was a jealous husband, a jealous partner, a jealous dad. It had to do with infidelity. So much so that when the detectives were asking Jennifer Drake questions, she was lying. Well, Jennifer Drake called the insurance company. Her husband's body, because it was COVID, laid on that floor for almost 24 hours. Wasn't touched, moved, nothing. On his office floor for 24 hours. She's over there in the middle of the night looking up and Googling at 2:15 in the morning, Googling things like real estate in Sandpoint, Garth's number to call the landlord of the Sandpoint office to get in there before the cops get in there, to wipe it down and to get anything that's in there out of there. Weird that that's be the first thing that you would be Googling. Next, you're then Googling Omaha life insurance, and you talk to them twice on 313. So much so that I've never seen a life insurance check for $1 million cut and endorsed and signed within a 3 to 4 week period. During an open and investigation and into a murder of her husband, who nobody has been eliminated because they just started the investigation. So how did Jennifer Drake obtain this $1 million? I'll tell you how. She got Mike Van Leuven, ISP detective. Gary Tolson tells Omaha, it's way too early. We haven't eliminated anybody. We're investigating. We just started. Same day, after she's been calling and trying to get here I got to turn my death certificate in, and here I got to do this, dealing and calling the insurance company multiple times. So she calls Mike Van Leuven, texts with him, always texting with Mikey boy. He talks to Omaha and specifically tells them that Miss Drake has cooperated with authorities, and right now they have no suspects. Well, what the fuck does that mean? How is that clearing her just because she's been cooperative? We can't help with your fucking moron. Because let me tell you something. Y'all interviewed Jennifer Drake on 3/16, 3/17, 3/24, and 4/6 of 2020. Those are the only recorded. There was an interview that took place on 3/13, the day after the murder, that was had in Bonners Ferry with ISP and Bonners Ferry staff together. It is on body cam. It is on body cam. It's in Discovery. It's on body cam. But guess what? The body cam does not have any sound on it. They provided redacted discovery to a defendant named Daniel Moore in a murder investigation. And it's like, no, we're going to redact the interview that we took with the wife. So you're not going to be able to tell what she said to investigators on 3/13. I've just never seen or heard anything like this in my life, right? Well, I said to myself, okay, how in the world did they get to the point that they would have the audacity and balls to, during this investigation, how did they get to Brian, or how did they get to Dan Moore that they got search warrants and shit and they're going to call him in again? Well, they're going around town and they're collecting surveillance videos. 18 businesses, they took surveillance videos. And then they're going around and they're, talking to people. And they actually have a conversation with Dan Moore back in March, at the end of March. And it wasn't even recorded. The March interview wasn't even recorded. And so imagine that, which is actually really important, because something that happened to Dan Moore was the week leading up to Dr. Drake's murder, his office building and the multiple females that worked there, because Dr. Moore actually runs a reputable chiropractic business and operation, that he has multiple people working in his office. They have, people coming in and out of there. Woo, woo, woo. Oh, and mind you, Brian Drake's main clientele in Bonners Ferry was the Mennonites. It was the Mennonite men and women. So the church, like the Mennonites. And then he had some involvement with people in Bonners Ferry, refer to them as the cartel. And he would actually physically go to the property. But Jennifer Drake, again, lied about that. But again, we'll get into that a little bit later. So here, when Moore was interviewed, again, this was not recorded. He mentioned, he's like, oh God, yeah. He's like, I remember that week, I was actually passed out. I hit my head, but we had a huge gas leak. Like, insurance people had to come out, like they had to have like fire trucks and whatever. But the women in his office were complaining about headaches. And here he was like, I'm going to go change this furnace. There was a leak. There was a gas leak. So he's down there changing his furnace, and he ends up, because of the gas leak, passing out, okay, on a Sunday. And it just so happened that his friend Mick happened to see his vehicle, his truck was there, stops by because he's like, what the hell's Dan doing there on a Sunday? Now, Mick is the coroner in this town. This was just the Sunday before the murders. So, I'm sorry, the Sunday after the murders. And so the murders was on a Thursday, and then this would be the Sunday just then after the murders. So just a couple days after the 12th, the 15th, I believe. So Mick sees his truck there because Mick's house is literally just a couple buildings down from where Dan's office is. And Dan and Mick are very, very good friends. Speaking of, is Lana at the massage parlor? You know it. You like this new setup? Happy endings always here at Truth and Transparency. Anyways, you guys making me laugh. I'll clear my throat with some good old honey whiskey. So Dan's, saying, yeah, I had a huge gas leak. That's why all these girls had these headaches because of this gas. And here he passes out. Mick called 911, He's like, no, I'm fine. Because then when Mick got him, went in there because he had a key to the place. He's like, holy shit, what the hell? He was on the ground, like basically unconscious. Like, so Dan is telling this to investigators. Do you understand? Ready for this? You understand that when they go back to the drawing board, at the end of May, beginning of June, Van Leuven and Tolson and the people that were assisting in Boundary County and Bonners Ferry, which I cannot wait because I'm ending with a video today. You guys are going to fucking die when I found. You guys are going to love me and I'm going to love you. But these fucking fucks, these amazing detectives that I would want them on my case, let me tell you. Just kidding. They look at each other and they're like, he tried to commit suicide. On that Sunday, Dan Moore tried to commit suicide because he felt so guilty for killing Dr. Drake. What? You guys want to talk about theories? You guys want to talk about Idaho 4 theories that people are saying? This is ISP detectives literally sitting at a round table. These are detectives sitting at a round table looking at each other and saying, all the interviews that we've done, the 200 interviews that we've done, this is what we've come up with. We now believe that Dan Moore, who doesn't know Drake from Adam, never met Drake. In fact, Jennifer Drake is just running her trap, ripping off all these people that she thinks, oh my God, they could be good. They could this. I mean, we love them, but they're fucking crazy. All these things. She doesn't even know who Dan Moore is. So she's over here giving them lists and telling them where to go and who to talk to and, telling them not to talk to certain people. And Jennifer Drake's running the investigation. But more importantly, these detectives say to themselves, I was looking at all the businesses, all the surveillance cameras that we have. And you know that Dan Moore was at his office on the night that Drake was killed. And he has a truck. And somebody was saying that there was a truck parked out, sitting out there when Eldora was, arriving for her appointment that day and leaving for her appointment that day. Yeah, guess who had the fucking truck? Steve Hartman, the one guy that you arrested and let go, he has an F-150. Paul Jacobson, the last dude that saw Drake, huge, big old white Ford truck. Dan Moore has a Toyota Tundra. Okay. But here she is, little Leslie, female detective. I don't know what's in the water and what these females are drinking, but God help you people. She comes in and she's like, well, wait, so since Bonners Ferry is the size of an anthill, okay? Do you know that everybody on the night of the murders went to Super One grocery store? I said to myself, there's no fucking way that everybody that was interviewed that saw Dr. Drake that day, what they did after they left was they went to the Super One grocery store. It was so funny? When I had talked to somebody and I said, do you think that's weird? They said, God, you really don't know Bonners Ferry, but I could totally see all these people because there's nothing to do in the town. So then I'm laughing about that. But I thought it was so, I was like, yeah, right. All these people. Oh yeah, I went to the Super One. I was like, yeah, okay. So you have all these people that are out driving around, and here you think that you're going to connect all these cameras to show when, and then this is why it's really important on the time of the crime, because there is no physical evidence tying, they have an eyewitness to the crime. An eyewitness to the crime says that he saw a fucking a very dark skinned, like an Indian male or somebody of dark descent heritage, Hawaiian. Somebody, you know what he said? oh, he looks just like the guy that runs the gas station at Mobile, and gave a name. He also gave a description and said, dark skin, had a black hoodie, black beanie, wore all black, had facial hair, and like I said, dark, and then he was wearing, oh yeah, then he said something about like a silver vest. Dan Moore is as white as they come. Okay, he can't run because of an injury that he had. He can walk and everything like that, but no, he's not just like running around. And why would Dan Moore, if he's going to shoot Drake, be circling in his truck and then decide, I'm going to then go park my truck over here and then walk, okay, and then come over here and shoot him through this window? But I'm trying to just scare him, but I actually end up killing him. All right. But the guy that calls 911 says that he sees a totally different person. Then you have an eyewitness that then sees a picture of one of the dudes and says, oh my God, that's the guy I saw. And you want to know what these detectives say to themselves? Yeah. Yeah. No. We're going to piece together 18 surveillance videos to try to show this truck moving around, just like they did in the Kohlberger case. This loop-de-loop-de-loop-de. Brian Kohlberger makes 3, 4, 5 loops around and then decides to, boom, boom, boom. Well, so I started investigating this case. So that's your Dateline version, right? Now here's where Lana gets in, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to tear this case the fuck apart. To the point of, I'm not only going to prove Dr. Moore did not do this, but I'm going to prove who the fuck did, because I said I was going to go after the $10,000 reward. I call the tip line. Do you think that they called me back? I have a lot of information. I want to give it up, right? I've never gotten a phone call back, and I truly kind of ask myself why they don't want this information. And I just think that's obstruction of justice. Well, so the Dateline version would tell you that they end up arresting Dr. Moore, and they tell Moore that, God, I've known you for all these years. I can't believe that you did it. Why'd you do this? Why don't we know what you did? And he's like, what? Y'all want me to come down here because you wanted a gun, and just totally didn't. He's like, yeah, we have your boy Mick in there, and he's in that other room, and he just failed his polygraph, and he said that your alibi, he said that you weren't with him, and all this stuff, because the night of the murder he had an airtight alibi. He was with the coroner, Mick. Like, Mick's like, yeah, he was with me. We were together when we heard it come over the radio, because Mick is the coroner. He has the police scanner. He's like, he was with me when the call came over, the call in. And funny thing is that they didn't call the coroner over until the next day. You know what I mean? Like, we'll get into all that. So the Dateline version would just tell you that, well, they arrested this guy. He gave a false confession. He's like, I want a lawyer. I think I should have a lawyer. Says, I want a lawyer 5 or 6 times. And they leave. Then they decide, okay, we'll send somebody else in, and then we're basically going to violate his rights. And Marty Ryan is talking to him. He's the assistant police chief. And I want to know why Marty Ryan, who knows who Dan Moore is and knows what a good guy he is, and how he's worked with all those, the kids throughout the sports programs when they would come through, working on all those kids for free and helping them with the sports. Like, dude, why are you trying to sit here and literally pin this murder on this man? Like, what is it to you? Like, just leave it unsolved. Like, why are you trying? Your girl already got her mill, of the life insurance. Like, this can go unsolved. There's no money pending, like, what's going on? Was there more to it? Did you want all of Dan Moore's property? What did you think was going to come out of this? Because somebody like Dan Moore could, fortunately enough, in a position that he could fight because he could afford to go out and actually get an attorney and do the things that would be needed to do in order to take on the corruption that was literally, he had no idea what was literally staring down this man's like face. But these guys all did, because before they ever obtained this illegal and totally unethical and just false, flat out false confession. When I say false confession, I've gone through, here we go. I'm going to show you guys what I mean by this. I have taken what Dr. Moore has said that happened, which he's like, yo, yeah, I told him I shot a gun down by my ankles. Like, he's just like, he's like, my lawyer will fix all that. Like, okay, just, I'm not going to fight with these guys. Or, you know, they're like, if you don't tell us why and how you did it, then we're going for first degree murder. If you do this, then it's second degree. You can't do stuff like that. But more importantly, the guy asked for a fucking lawyer and a lawyer and a lawyer and a lawyer. And then you're getting him to just like, when the evidence doesn't match what the confession is, I don't know how much more false it can fucking be. All right. To the point of they arrest this man. They put him in jail. They do some ridiculous ass bond. He gets his attorney. They go to trial. Well, they go to the preliminary hearing. Well, first of all, his attorney is fighting and fighting and fighting to get the discovery. They give the defense 33 pages of discovery until literally the preliminary hearing is October 2nd of 2020. Dan Moore did not have but 33 pages of the discovery up until September 25th, 2020, of when they give a huge terabyte download. So, so yes, September 25th, they're given like a terabyte worth of, here's this download, here's this hard drive, here you go. And now his attorney is supposed to go through all of this for the preliminary that's on October 2nd. At this preliminary hearing, the only evidence that they were presenting was this confession, and then letting Mike Van Leuven on the stand talk about some stuff that he was not qualified to talk about, and it was just so fucking ridiculous, which was in the findings by the medical examiner at the autopsy. Her findings, and they're what is going to stand. Mike Van Leuven says that, yeah, you know, we took crude measurements at the crime scene. They never provided any crime scene photos to the defense. The defense hadn't seen any photos. You understand what I'm saying? No crime scene photos. Who doesn't take crime scene photos of a murder? Have you guys ever heard about this? Just curious. They said, yeah, well, at the scene, you could tell the bullet traveled through the window, and it was at a downward trajectory, is a downward angle. Well, the medical examiner, she puts her report together, and no, Dr. Drake's email. I'm sorry, Dr. Drake's not email. Dr. Drake's autopsy during the preliminary hearing, her findings was that it was an upward, okay, that he was shot and went through his 6th and 7th rib, and it was upward. So Mike Van Leuven's on the stand, and he's like, yeah, he was sitting in his chair and he got hit, and then because he was leaning over like this when he got hit, and that's what caused the downward angle, and then he fell over. And like, what? Do you have any pictures of this? Like, do you have a crime scene? Like, what do you? Yeah, I mean, we took some crude images, we took some crude measurements, and so she's like, okay, so what's the distance of the window? Like, how big is it? How wide is it? What's it off the ground? You know, what chair was he sitting in? Where was the chair? Oh, I don't have any of those. Don't you have the reports? You should have all that. What do you mean you don't have? You're here to testify. You don't have any reports. Then I also said, like, why didn't the defense like have those? Be like, okay, well, here I can pull it up. I couldn't even believe what I was fucking listening to during this preliminary hearing. Needless to say, they tried to admit into evidence a 911 call that doesn't play over the recorder, that totally messes up. And they're like, oh my God, stop. That's not the right one. And then the prosecutor at the end says, right before they arrest their case in chief, says, okay, we would like to withdraw exhibit number 2, the 911 call, from evidence. We want to, they admitted it, but then they want to pull it out. That 911 call never played. It never played. And I said, why the fuck did this 911 call never play? I do a FOIA request because I said, I was like, everything is surrounding this 911 call and the time that the 911 call was made. The 911 call from Jennifer Drake's cell phone never happened. So then therefore, this alleged call at 7:17 to 7:26, how are we supposed to know truly what transpired on that call? Because you didn't call the police right after that phone call. Or if you did, you definitely did not use your cell phone. So whose phone, in fact, was there even a call? To this day, there are no records of a 911 call that was made from Jennifer Drake or anybody during the time of 7 to 8 p.m. from Hayden. I have every single 911 call that was made from 7 to 8. I did a FOIA request, and it's 47 pages. Okay, awesome. Now, I went as far as to say I want to know who the fuck Marty Ryan was, because I had seen a name, and the name was David J. McLeland. And right here, Tammy, I interviewed Funderburg's girlfriend as an initial canvas activity, but she only told me what her boyfriend told her. That's all hearsay. She was interviewed the next day by ISP investigators. I did not have my recorder and took no notes. What the fuck kind of detective are you to be going around doing canvas interviews and not have your notes, recorder? What are you doing? This is a murder investigation, David. Well, I wanted to find out who the fuck is David and who sent him on these canvassing, Well, come to find out, I found Marty Ryan's report. And then I went back to the call logs and the dispatching logs. And I said to myself, well, by God. I said, by God. I said, by God. I said, okay, so here we have, this is the Boundary County Sheriff. And this is, these are the incident officers. And 1509 is Dave, this dude, right? Awesome. And now this is who Boundary County is saying was all involved in this incident. Okay? However, I went and I got the actual, these would be the event activity log. This is the actual log, radio logs of anybody and everybody that would have been dispatched. And like the notes next to it, this is the timestamp. This then shows you your, like the badge number, the number associated with who you're, dispatching out. Okay. And I went through every single dispatch, every single one. for this incident. Every single one. And you know what I could not find? I could not find David McClellan being dispatched to the scene or ever using any radio. And why this was so important is because I went to Marty Ryan's report before he decided that he was giving this over to ISP, which happened at midnight of that day. So when I went to this report, I said, let me take a look here. See this puppy? Mm-hmm. On 3/12/2020, approximately, that's 8 p.m., I was contacted via landline. See that right there? Landline? Landline means that it wasn't via radio. It was like cell phone. Okay? I was contacted via landline by BFPD Sergeant Cowell. I went ahead and looked at Cowell. I looked up him and to see when he would have been on scene. I don't know why he'd be contacting you at 8 when that motherfucker didn't even know about it at 8. Moving on. He wasn't even dispatched until 8:48. Colwell. Moving on. He advised of a shooting had occurred this evening within the city limits of Bonners Ferry. A victim had been located at 6811 Main Street. The victim was deceased. From information being provided from officers on scene, this was believed to be a homicide. No suspect was in custody or known at this time. I was successful in making landline contact with Boundary County Sheriff's Office Detective Dave McClelland. Again, who was never dispatched, never seen on the sheet, who was at the scene of the incident. I said, well, that's amazing. He's at the scene of the incident. I inquired if a crime scene had been established. He replied they were doing so at that moment. If you're establishing a crime scene, that means you're taping it off, just so we're aware of like what would be going on there. Give me a second. Sorry about that. I cannot have my pies burning. No pies can burn. Okay, back. All right. As I was saying, I hate it when creators have to mute. It makes me so nervous that something might happen. No, guys, my pies matter. All right, continuing on. I inquired if a crime scene had been established. He replied they were doing so at that moment. I asked if all persons were being kept out of the crime scene as to secure any possible evidence present. He replied that the immediate crime scene area had been secured under the control and watch of BFPD, Honors Ferry, Officer Johnson. I then requested he enter the crime scene to do a quick walkthrough and report back to me any immediate discoveries and his opinion. Within a few minutes, Detective McClellan called me back. He stated that a male subject, later confirmed to be 45-year-old Brian Drake, of Hayden, Idaho, was laying on the floor in the office at 681 Main Street, Suite B. He could observe no bullet wound or cause of death, but Drake had been confirmed deceased by responding medics. From immediate examination, it appeared a bullet had been fired from an unknown weapon, an unknown suspect, from outside the office, through the office window, and had been the cause of Drake's demise. McClellan confirmed that no one had moved the body of victim Drake, nor had anyone disturbed anything within the office space. McClellan vacated the building, taking with him Officer Johnson. Officer Johnson was now posted outside of the front door at location, tasked as crime scene security. Marty Ryan says, I responded to then 6811 Main Street. Well, what time? My first contact was with Boundary County Sheriff Dave Kramer. He briefed me on what he knew of the incident. I was told the deceased victim was still within the office building where he had been discovered by first responding officers. I was told the building and surrounding area had been searched and no suspects nor weapons discovered. I secured the perimeter of the crime scene. I ensured the perimeter of the crime scene was well established with law enforcement at every entry point of the location, ensuring no one entered the area. I walked the alleyway between south wall of the office building of 6811 Main Street and the north wall of the far north coffee lodge, because that's where this window was. One window was emitting light as the light within this room was on. This was later determined to be the office of chiropractor and victim Drake. As I stopped at this window, I could see it was a double pane window. A clear bullet entry hole could be seen in the glass, going through both panes, damaging and disrupting the closed blinds within. I was also able to have a broken view into the room through the blinds. I could observe victim Drake laying on the floor. I exited the area and did not return till walking the crime scene with ISP investigators the following day at 3 p.m. So in his report, he is saying that he never went into the crime scene. He never went into the office. He did not go in there until he went in with ISP the next day, and that would have been at 3 p.m. That's when ISP went in. 3 p.m. Brian Drake just laid there. Just so you guys know that. Now, notifications were made, including contacting of ISP investigators requesting their assistance. Primary contact was made between this person. I was advised a male witness, Isaac Funderburg, who resided directly across the street from the incident location, was a possible witness. I was directed to Funderburg. Funderburg stated that he was outside of his residence working on his vehicle when he heard what sounded like a gunshot go off. Now, in Marty Ryan's report, clearly, when interviewed, Isaac Funderburg said that there was 2 shots. Marty Ryan changes it and says 1. He was positive, Isaac Funderburg was positive it came from the area east of him, the office at 6811 Main Street. As he walked towards this area, still standing on the side of the street of where he's located, so opposite of Dr. Drake's side, he observed an unknown male dressed in a black hoodie, sweatshirt, a black beanie, and black jeans walk out from behind the 6811 Main Street building, walking northbound along the fence line and towards Bonner's Ferry Glass. Funderburg yelled out, "Hey, was that you?" The subject looked at Funderburg, then began running, then crossed over El Paso Street. Witness Funderburg did not know where the unknown suspect fled. Funderburg stated he got into his vehicle and drove around for a few minutes, attempting to see what was going on, why the suspect ran, and where he ran to. He then returned to his home and called 911. Funderburg provided further description in comparing the suspect he observed as looking like the Indian Middle Eastern descent owner of the South Hill Mobile gas station, Bibik Sanar, adding the suspect had darker skin and light facial hair. Just so you know, Dan Moore is white as fuck. Whew. Funderburg also described a suspicious vehicle that had been in the area earlier in the evening, a dark-colored sedan. He stated was like a 90s model Malibu. According to Funderburg, the sedan was parked for a long time in the Les Schwab parking lot. The engine was running with the lights pointed at Funderburg's residence. Funderburg thought it was odd that a similar, if not same vehicle was seen leaving the area a short time after the shooting occurred. Interview video recorded by Deputy Valenzuela's body-worn recorder, copies of video provided to ISP investigators. Marty Ryan took this guy's body cam off of this guy's chest and was holding it while he was interviewing, at this point, Isaac Funderburg, allegedly. I was told, Marty Ryan says, that Funderburg's live-in girlfriend, unknown name at the time of writing this report, was an unknown name. When did you write this report, and how would you not know the name when you wrote this report? I'm sorry, but this is the assistant police chief. I was told Funderburg's live-in girlfriend, she's 17 at the time, this girl, unknown name at the time of writing this report, was also a witness. I requested Detective McLeland, Detective Dave, to go to the residence and acquire a recorded statement from her prior to Funderburg returning home. This was done. Okay, now. Tammy, I interviewed Funderburg's girlfriend as an initial canvas activity. Initial. Do you know what initial means? Initial? But she only told me what her boyfriend told her. She was interviewed the next day by ISP investigators. I did not have my recorder and took no notes. Now, Marty Ryan says that I sent this motherfucker, his name is Detective Dave McLeland, to go to their residence and acquire a recorded statement from her prior to Funderburg returning home. This was done. See Detective McLelland's report for further. She says report for this was done. See Detective McLelland's report for further. Period. I don't know who taught Marty Ryan how to write a sentence, but Lord have mercy, thank God he is retiring early. I wonder why, Marty. Don't worry. I'll make sure that they know all about you. I was aware of a security company in Bonners Ferry that specialized in video surveillance and had supplied numerous businesses in Bonners Ferry with security cameras. North Idaho CCTV. It was owned by a Bonners Ferry resident. This resident has provided valuable video of prior criminal activity to the BFPD in the past. As well, this person is a surveillance/tech security at the casino, which itself has an extremely elaborate video surveillance system. So I made contact with this person. I advised that we had an incident in the area. I provided him a description of our suspect, as well as the info regarding the suspect's vehicle. So the info of the suspect's vehicle, the suspect was on foot running, right? So what vehicle did you provide that you believed that this person that was running on foot, what was that? Or are you referring to the 90s Malibu that Funderburg said that he saw, but he never associated the Malibu with that suspect, just for the record? So when you write in your report here, Mr. Ryan, this is Tina with What the Fuck Translation Services. What the fuck are you talking about? Because your person on foot was never associated with a vehicle. So is this a second suspect, whoever was driving the 90s Malibu? Because at the preliminary hearing, you would get your ass handed to you when you got asked that question. Anyways. So I provided him a description of our suspect, as well as the info regarding the suspect's vehicle, or the suspicious vehicle. Maybe that's what he's trying to say. So you did give them the information on a 90s Malibu. We'll find out how that played out in court, because you said you had no idea and you never put a BOLOL out for the Malibu. So what the fuck did you do? Or do you actually know who's that vehicle belongs to? Because I know that you know who drives a 90s Malibu, or looks like a 90s Malibu. Yeah. This guy advised me that he would access surveillance video from the businesses he had access to later. If he observed anything, he would let me know. The following hours were spent tasking law enforcement with canvassing the surrounding area for evidence, scheduling manpower for the evening ahead, and attempting to locate a suspect. I was advised by ISP that due to their late hour and numerous employees challenged by the illness, COVID, a team of investigators would not be available till at least 9 a.m. the following morning. Thus, an extended crime scene management effort was added to our planning going forward. Now, there's a bunch more that he says, not like so much more, but first of all, Marty, when were you dispatched to the scene that night? It says here that you weren't dispatched until 9:59. Is that correct? So 9:59, you didn't interview Isaac Funderburg until after 9:59? And what time did you call Dave McClellan to go in to the crime scene and look at the crime scene for you and report back to you? Well, because Dave wasn't even dispatched there. So was Dave just in street clothes? Were you just in street clothes? Y'all are just full of fucking lies. So looking back at this, it says that Dave didn't go in until after the medics were there, according to B. Johnson. And the medics didn't give their clearance on everything until 8:40, when they said that dispatch notifying that medical did as far as patient assessment, they saw no injuries, cuts, or blood. Did not move patient other than to use cardiac monitoring. No cardiac activity observed. No blood in ears, nose, or mouth. And that was at 8:40. Then 21:58 hours is the first time that we see you on the radio log at. And it says that You are just now on scene. You have no radio. Have others use your landline to contact you. Why is it that you called Jennifer Drake's cell phone at 9:04? How did you have Jennifer Drake's cell phone number at 9:04? Wait, what? Did you call Jennifer Drake before or after you told Dave McClellan to go in there and snatch up that motherfucking cell phone? I can prove that you guys messed with the cell phone because y'all are that bad. So if we were to take, let's see, if we were to take Drake's cell phone right now, do you think that Drake's cell phone would actually have any fingerprints on it, even Drake's fingerprints or DNA on it? Or do you think that it would actually be wiped down to have no DNA and no prints? The cell phone that was right by his head, allegedly? Because I have it and can prove that you ordered Dave McClellan to go into the crime scene and to look around and then to report back to you. And that would be between the hours of 8:17 p.m. and 9:52 p.m. Isn't that correct? Well, Brian Drake was dead, laying on the floor. So we know that Brian Drake couldn't pick up his phone and open it and go to his text messages and read them. But right here in the Cellbrite that I have, you know, Cellbrite when you download phones, right here in this Cellbrite, you said that nobody touched anything. Well, so was Brian Drake still alive? Who viewed the text messages that came in at 8:16 and at 8:17, which they should have been listed as unread? Because the Cellbrite dump, what it does when we download stuff is it takes the phone of how it was at the time. So what that means is, Mr. Marty Ryan, let me show this to you in like a bigger, let me show you something that we did just to prove that you guys are just completely fucking crazy. So this is part of mine and Scott Roeder's stuff that we're putting together to prove that the false confession is not only false, but it is scientifically impossible. Okay. But here we go. Let's take a look at this. Do you know what we're looking at here? What we are looking at, Mr. Ryan, is we're looking at a Cellbrite. And anybody that's a forensic expert, okay? What they're going to testify to is that this cell phone, see how it says unread here? Okay, see how it says red, 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 unread? Okay, well, this is a text message from Jennifer Drake at 5:45 that was read, Drake's alive, okay? He is speaking at Lostology. Then at 8:16 and 58 seconds, his son texts him, okay? And says, I love you. 8:16. Brian Drake would already be dead. At 8:17, Papa, that's what he calls his dad. At 9:52, so this was red in red. And then this, 9:52, unread, do you have slots tomorrow a.m.? And that was from one of his clients. Okay? Now, the only way that what this means, read and unread, is that when you actually go into the phone and you use the application and you have to physically go in, if you guys saw the Murdoch murders, when you go in and you actually open something up, it'll show, if you ever were to download the info, it'll show that it was red. If you actually have your phone and you turn over your phone to, let's say, law enforcement for them to download it and to them to do an extraction and for them to do their Cellbrite, and you don't look at, let's say, 9 different text messages that you have, when you get your report back, it is going to show all of those text messages as unread. These 2 text messages here at 8:17 and 8:16, back to back. This cell phone was allegedly, as you said, Dave McClellan, Brandon Johnson, Venezuela, all those first responders. They said that this phone was laying by his body, and it was, it just laid there, and nobody had touched anything, nobody had moved anything. Well, I'm going to tell you right here and right now that the evidence shows that before 9:52, okay, because this came at 9:52 and it's unread. But between the hours of 8:17 and 9:52, somebody handled this cell phone, opened it up, went into the text messages, and at least, just with this little information, I can tell you that they read all the text messages that had come through up until that point. They had examined everything, showing red and red. The cell phone was placed back prior to this text message coming in, as it was then labeled unread, as well as all of the other text messages that would come in. And if I go to page 2 here, it has all of these other text messages, and it's unread. And because they were coming in the middle of the night when people had found out that Brian was murdered. They were saying, "Oh man, I love you. I can't believe you're gone." Things like that, text messages like that. Now, this phone allegedly sat on the floor and was not touched, okay, from the time that he was murdered until it was never opened, never done anything. It was bagged and tagged by ISP, allegedly at 3:30 when they made entry, and then they started processing the scene. So you, though, Mr. Ryan, you actually sent somebody in there during this time frame, and you actually were on scene. And we have a couple other officers that were physically in that room. Okay. And so what I'm telling you here today is that one of your members, to include you, tampered with evidence. This proves it. So who did it? And you're the one that's sending people in. Dave wasn't even dispatched there. Dave is on no radio. You're communicating with him. And isn't it ironic that you called Jennifer Drake at 904 from her cell phone number? How did you have her cell phone number? Also, what was it? Let's see. Isn't that kind of early to be calling from your cell phone? How did you have her cell phone number? Who gave you Jennifer Drake's cell phone number? I mean, I could just keep going if you really want me to. Let's see what else I have right here. Right here. Let's go back to this. See this window right there? Boom, boom. Now, did you guys take the measurements of the window? Did you take the measurements of how tall Dan Moore is? What type of chair was Brian Drake sitting in when he was shot? check this out. Here is your Kootenai County FOIA request here. Let's see. You know, see this right here? Unable to respond for one or more of the following reasons. Record not known to exist, no audio of the 911 call that Jennifer Drake says that she made to Kootenai County when she just right away got off the phone with her husband. No records exist of that phone call. Now, how tall is Dr. Moore? Help you guys out. He is what you would call 5'8". And 5'8" means that you are, let's see here. He is 68.5 inches tall. Okay. Now, I went ahead and did my own shit because you guys suck dick. Here are the measurements. The window across is 50.5 inches. The window from the top to the bottom of the actual window is 43 inches. Now, from the ground to the window is 38 inches. Okay. Right there. Window length, window height, ground to the window. Bullet hole entered 12 blades up from the bottom of the window, and it was in the corner right. Okay, corner right, meaning when facing the window. 12 blades up, blind blades, okay? Now, Marty Ryan's report on 8/27/2020 says, in quotes, Moore thinks he held the gun at waist level, not eye level. In quotes, Mick called him at 2 a.m. and said Brian Drake had been shot and killed. Phone records, let's see if that, what's up. Moore standing up waist high would be 30 to 34 inches tall. Like the window begins at 38 inches off the ground. So what I did is Brian Drake is, where do I have his? Oh, each of the the blades are 1 inch. So it's 12 inches. Then, so you're here, it's 38. Then you count 12 because it's, each blind blade was an inch. So that's how you're going to add your 38 to your 12. So you're at 50. That's where, it entered going through the window was at a height of 50 inches tall, basically. Okay. Now, Moore is 68.5 inches. And no, he did not say it was at waist. He was like saying he bent down and would he's left-handed. He would use his right hand. Okay. So, and that he would bend down and shoot at his waist towards his knee. That is physically impossible to do, just so we're clear. Now, where Moore's waist would be when standing at this window. He is the average person, let's just put it to you guys this way, is 34 inches in your legs, and then the rest, torso and head. So for him to shoot at his waist, this bullet wouldn't have went through the window. It would, in fact, go through the fucking stone and the wall and the drywall. Okay? Because now, if he's standing up and actually holds it at eye level, okay, and then like tilted it, his hand down, and shot through the window, which is not what he said at all, you would then create this downward trajectory. Okay. Now, it's really important to know that where the bullet went through, there's no shell casing, and that this bullet was in and stayed in Dr. Drake. So during the autopsy is when the bullet was taken out. Okay. So no shell casing. And where his body was like laying on the ground, you could see no blood. And something that I always thought was weird is, how would Drake not have enough time to, once he was shot, why didn't he call 911 himself? You know what I mean? I get it that he internally bled, but something to me does not make sense with the fact that your wife is going to tell you, oh my God, get off the phone with me, call 911. You know what I mean? She made it seem like he gets hit and then it was instantly that he's just dead and unconscious. All right. Well, okay. The ME says he was hit. Now, we're going to talk about how tall Brian Drake is. Brian Drake is show you guys this. Me and Scott Roeder have been doing some work. Brian Drake is 72 inches tall. Okay. 72 inches tall. But more importantly, Brian Drake, he's got some long motherfucking legs. Okay. And Brian Drake is 39 inches from the bottom of his feet to his waist is 39 inches, which is, it's those are longer legs than the average. Like I told you, like 34. So 39 from the bottom of your feet to your waist, he's 39. But they said their thing is that he was sitting in like a stool, like how I am, and that he was leaned over a little bit, and that's when he was shot in the side. That's what created that trajectory, which is totally fucking not even the slightest, even remotely thing that's true. Because, at the preliminary hearing, it was great when he's talking about this, and Moore's attorney says, did you talk to the ME when, with your findings here? Are you aware of what Sally Aiken said in her report? To the effect of, let's see. I want to say it perfectly. Are you aware that the wound was located 51 inches and 1/4 above the bottom of the heels and 21.5 inches above the buttocks? The wound was in the center part of the scapula to the left, 3 3/8 inches. And are you aware that, oh, let's see, how did she say? The path of that bullet, you remember what she said to you? Oh, no, you didn't talk to her, did you? But she said that the bullet traveled through the skin, and it entered the left chest cavity, between the 7th and 8th rib fracturing, a little bit of rib number 8, and that it was at an upward angle. An upward angle? Are you aware of that upward angle that she talked about? So this whole downward trajectory down and through a window and into your bullet going down, well, the ME says this bullet traveled up and through, like coming this, like if you're like wrestling somebody and somebody pulls out a gun and goes to shoot, like, pulls it out and shoots you in like the side, and like it's like an upper shot, okay, something like that. But how could you possibly be sitting in a chair like this on the phone, okay, and somebody shoots you through a window that you're saying that from the window when you do the laser, it's a downward, okay? But you're saying, oh, the reason it was like that is because he was leaned over. Just because he fucking leans over, that doesn't, what do you think? How does him leaning over have anything to do? Like, that would still be traveling. Like, what are you talking about? You make no sense. But did his stool and chair, did it have a back on it? Because if it had a back on it, then so it went through the back of the chair? No, the motherfucker was not shot through the window, okay? And the ME proves that the shot through the window it's a red herring. It was done to, at the end, the one shot that killed him, that wasn't the shot that went through the window. That was the whole afterwards when you leave, shoot through the window, and we're going to go ahead and say that's what the fuck it was type of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's when you fuck up, it's when you're making a crime scene and you're, okay, hey, we're going to stage this and go ahead and do this and shoot right here, and we're going to say that. Well, guess who would have to be part of that? Because Brian Drake would never say that he was shot through the window if he wasn't shot through the window. Does that make sense, guys? So therefore, the story that comes from Jennifer Drake would never have come out of Brian's mouth, because Brian Drake wasn't shot through the fucking window. Scientifically, it is impossible, based on the ME's autopsy, based on science, based on everything to do with this crime scene. It is physically impossible for that gun shot through that window to be the gunshot bullet that entered and killed Dr. Drake. So think about this for a second. You ready for this? Literally physically impossible for that to be the cause. So that means that Brian Drake, that's not what happened. So Brian Drake would have never told his wife that story, because that didn't happen, right? So where in the world would Jennifer Drake get the red herring story? You guys getting what I'm saying? She came up with the story because Brian Drake did not get shot that way. You guys understand? Brian Drake's story, if he ever was to say it, would have been, he's on the phone and he's getting shot by somebody that's coming at him, and he's, you know what I mean? Like, that would not, His story could not be that he got shot through the window. So Jennifer Drake saying that story, Isaac Funderburg didn't say that to 911. Isaac Funderburg didn't call and say, oh my God, I just saw somebody standing outside of the window and just shoot into the window. No, Isaac Funderburg said he just heard gunshots, plural, 2. But Brian Drake only has 1 fucking shot in him, right? It's because the second shot was that bullet shooting through, into the window. They picked up the shell casing, or if it wasn't a gun that had a shell casing, and those fucking detectives and first responders, and remember that whole like, oh, Dave, go in there and da-da-da and do this and, whatever. Hey, grab that bullet that's, the one that we shot through and it went into the fucking wall. So the point is that Jennifer Drake, Brian Drake would have never said this story to his wife because it didn't happen to him. That's not the shot. So in Jennifer Drake saying this, the only way that Jennifer Drake could say this is if she was fucking part of it. And this is what she was told to say, or this is what she said because she knew the plan and she would have already known that they did what we shot through, we're going to shoot through the window and we're going to say that he got shot through the window. And that's how I just blew up your fucking shit, Jennifer. And I promise you, Jennifer Drake, that this is not called slander. That this is not called libel. That this is called fucking police detective work. Work that I've done with professional and experts to the point of we're almost done creating this crime scene reenactment to the point that I've already rented out for 6 months that office building in Bonners Ferry. Motherfucker. Yep, signed my lease already. Why? Because I'm doing a bunch of shows there. It's dirt cheap. $500 a month. Shit, I have all of you guys to support that, right? Everybody donates $1 a month. Jennifer Drake, you were the only one that said this story, that he was shot through that fucking window. Why? Well, save yourself, girl, or you did it. Because Brian Drake wasn't shot through the window, meaning Brian Drake couldn't have ever told that to fucking Jennifer. He didn't see that because that didn't happen to him. And science is going to prove that. Science is also going to prove that we have our hands on some surveillance cameras that you guys didn't go and get. And you're all a bunch of fucking jackasses. But there's people out in Bonners Ferry that knew this shit was off from lickety split. And guess what they all did? They saved a bunch of shit. And y'all didn't go and get it. Well, those people have contacted me and others. And I am so grateful and thankful. We're talking about people having their original devices that they took screenshots on, that they have their text messages, that they have your guys' little time when you say this all fucking happened. This didn't happen then. Jennifer Drake, what really happened at 6:42 when you called? Eldora Gatchell wasn't getting worked on, okay, from 6:03 until 7:17, honey. Okay. Eldora Gatchell was done at 6:42, honey. What truly happened during that 9 minute and 15 second phone call? Who was actually on the line of Brian's phone talking to you at 9 for that 9 minutes and 15 seconds? Why is Dr. Guyman's camera, yes, Dr. Guyman's camera off 9 minutes and 11 seconds? Why did they have to say that it was off 9 minutes and 11 seconds and they pushed it back? What car was actually seen on that surveillance camera? Have you ever heard of a camera being off 9 minutes and 15 seconds? To the point of that's the same amount of time that the phone call was that transpired with Drake, the 2 Drakey poos, allegedly. Talk about some crazy ass shit. Jennifer Drake went and did a FOIA request through ISP to get her hands on the discovery because she did that, I was able to get my hands on the ISP discovery. Jennifer Drake went and sued for wrongful death Dr. Moore, which made a shit ton of things public. She took an investigation that would have not come out had she not been a greedy little fucking bitch. And I can call you that, okay? Because the dude did not confess to killing your fucking husband, all right? He didn't know him. He didn't kill him. But Jennifer Drake, you had 1 million reasons. You didn't even need 1 million reasons because your husband's a cheating bastard, right? Or was your marriage perfect? Because I know that Lacey Savage is ready to tell all with what your husband said to her every time he would walk into that office. This little young 20-something-year-old in her early 20s, and he's slapping her ass. He's telling her what positions he wants to put her in. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were my wife. Y'all are delusional. And last but not least, why is Amber Van Ling, your best friend, why is her cell phone number on the police report for the 911 shit? Did you borrow her phone? Did you use her phone when you called 911? Is that why it's not on your phone records? I personally don't give a flying fuck. Y'all want to lie and hide behind fucking God? No. Y'all are a bunch of swinging ass, fucking scamming ass motherfuckers. Your husband didn't slip and fall on some fucking ice, okay? That's not what happened. You went and you sued a guy, Garth and his wife, and they only gave you the $5,000 because Brian wasn't even in a lease. They only gave you the $5,000 because he was dead and they felt so fucking bad. You had no right to that fucking money. More importantly, though, y'all are a bunch of frauds. Your husband only made $70,000 in 2019, yet the state's case is that Brian Drake was so fucking popular and everybody went to Brian. He's so fucking busy. That's why Dr. Moore killed Brian. Like, what? Y'all aren't even making any money. Like, no money, right? Family of 6, $70K. I don't know how y'all made it. That's right, you weren't. Were you aware that your son called Dwayne Fish the night of the murder at 6:50 p.m.? 6:50 and already said that his dad was shot in the fucking leg? Wait, but I thought he wasn't shot until 7:26 p.m. Well, Dwayne Fish, in his interview with ISP, he told them that Brenner Drake called him to let him know that he wouldn't be at, work and that his dad had been shot in the leg. Why in the fuck and how in the fuck would Brenner Drake be calling somebody at 6:50 p.m.? Is it because of that 6:42 call? I don't believe that ISP is this stupid. And I already know that Marty Ryan's dirty as fuck. But I want to know, did you and Marty Ryan know each other when you guys were both in Montana at the same time? You know what the best part about it is? Everything that I'm saying, I'm not just making this shit up. I'm over here providing fucking police reports. I'm over here providing cell brights. But my question is who in the fucking world is your attorney that would ever tell you to go forward with a civil fucking case? They fucked you. You go forward with this civil case, or I should say, rather, Dan Moore's case was dismissed. You understand that? Why do you think it was dismissed? There was no evidence that you've seen that he committed any crime. And yet you, before the criminal case was like O.J. Simpson case, once it was over, then the Goldmans and the Browns went and they did the civil trial, right? No, you went to do Wait, you went into the civil. You filed civilly before there was ever even any answers in a criminal investigation, in a criminal case, in a criminal trial. Who the fuck does that? What evidence, when you're going to go do wrongful, well, he confessed to, he didn't confess, Jennifer. There's no evidence that exists. Like, I could give you this. If take the confession away, what evidence is there against Dr. Moore? The answer is nothing. And I'd be the first one to give it to you. Because what I was hoping to do with this whole case was to help you find your husband's killer and to save the Moore's livelihood that you fucking have ruined. And they're going to wax you in court civilly. And we're going to be broadcasting it. I hate to tell you this, but we already put our motion in. We motioned to have broadcasting in there. But regardless, I will be there at that civil trial. And but you should just be trying to settle out, because hopefully they don't charge you with fucking murder. All right? Because you have no alibi. You have no alibi, and in police records, you said you called 911, and you said you made a 911 call at a certain time, and there's no 911 record of that. So how do you explain that? And you know how your husband was not killed, but yet that there was a gunshot through a window that didn't kill him and never touched him. And how would you know that if you weren't there? How would you know that? Who the hell would ever be on the phone with their husband when they got shot and not hear a gunshot or glass break? That's what you said in your testimony. I caught, or not your testimony, but your interviews. I caught you in so many lies. You're a really good liar, though. But if the right person was to question you, you'd get owned. You'd get owned. These softball questions that you're getting. Here, I only wanted the $10,000 reward money, but I think I'm going to get paid a lot more. Because I think the Netflix original that's coming with this case, I think it's going to pay a pretty penny. And I'm sure, I bet you the Moores will cut me in on that. What do you think? My money's on yes. I don't know. I mean, you have to have one of the stupidest lawyers that would ever tell you to go forward with a civil case, because if you don't go forward with a civil case, then none of this comes out. That's what I think, stupidity. But that's greed, because you know that Dr. Moore didn't kill your husband, and yet you want to put him behind bars. But more importantly, you think that you're going to take all this money and all this land. Jennifer, you're not getting a fucking dime, honey. But we already know that you're fucking a broke bitch. So they're not going to get anything either, right? Because what'd you do? Put all your money in an LLC? What'd you do with the $1 million? Where's that at? Man, I hope so. I pay Netflix every month, Lana. I know, right? It's coming. But I'm just so sick and tired of, I mean, Jennifer, you have no alibi. And I don't think that Amber Van Ling is going to lie for you. I don't. I think she cares about her kids. I mean, her husband Spencer's just a complete fucking moron. He lied. I can prove that he lied. Joshua, your friend, Sprague, he's just a nervous fucking Nelly. You think Beth Mulligan's going to lie for you? That watched your daughter that whole afternoon and night, and she slept there? You know, when you came out and told the media and asked for all this help for your husband? Remember that? And you said that you were sitting right next to your daughter when you got the phone call and you were talking to your husband, you had to call 911. Remember all that shit? And your daughter was sitting right there next to you, and it was a memory that you would never forget. Remember that? Yeah, you said that March 2023. And you know what I felt? I was like, oh, man. Ugh. But little did I know. Little did I know. But you were, I think you were a worse actress than, what's her name? Shanna Gardner over there in Jacksonville. But she at least has Jose Baez. You can't afford anybody like that, honey. Anyways. Jennifer, your daughter was not next to you. It was not a memory that you're never going to forget. It's a memory that never fucking happened. Your daughter was with Beth Mulligan and Beth Mulligan's daughter at their house having a slumber party doing crafts. Don't you remember your text messages? Guess who actually picked up your daughter the next day? Your sister Emily. She picked up your daughter. I think it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon that next day. She picked up your daughter before your husband's body was scraped off the ground. You know, and personally, I think Brian Drake was miserable because of you, because you're a controlling fucking freak of nature. And let's go ahead and talk about Steve Minert and your BRB. Wait, I'm sorry, it's called your Airbnb. Who Airbnbs their house when they have a house full of people that live in the house? How can you Airbnb your house? Let's talk about, are you an Uber driver? Why would you get Uber text messages that day and says update your driving papers? Do you drive for Uber? Can't wait, honey. But I will promise you this. You ain't getting a dime, and you better hope that you don't go away for fucking murder. Because I'm only getting started. And I want to look into the Ellen Greenberg, where they said that they she stabbed herself or something like that. The Chicago case, right? Yeah. I can only help in cases if I have the information. You know, I'm not going to if you got, people out there that have their discovery and they believe they're innocent and they, have their discovery, I can do something with the discovery. If I don't have the information, I can do FOIA requests and stuff like that too. But, some stuff they will say it's an open, an active investigation, and there's some stuff we can't get, but but Vanna Charity has the money. Yeah, but then she hid the money. Right now, I just would love to know where that $1 million is. What truth and transparency really means. There you go. And I can back up everything that I'm saying, so I laugh when someone says, you are slandering somebody. What the fuck are you talking about? My opinion is that I think that you're a greedy bitch. But the facts surrounding what happened that night that your husband was murdered, if you had nothing to do with it, you should be blowing up my phone saying, oh my God, Lana, if Dr. Moore if Dr. Moore did not do this, oh my God, if you're a Christian woman, you would be feeling all of this guilt to the point of like, I cannot believe I've been blaming this man. Oh my God, like, please help me. Like, if you've uncovered all of this stuff, like, I don't want to send an innocent man. I don't want to, holy crap. That's what a Christian woman would be doing. A Christian woman would be hearing this, seeing this, and saying to themselves, oh my God, what have I done? I need to make this right. An innocent woman, that's what they'd be saying. They would know that they didn't do anything and I didn't fucking kill my husband, but I can't believe I'm over here. I thought this guy did it because ISP is telling me that he's the guy, and ISP said they had all this evidence and yada, yada, yada. And that he confessed, and not only do they have the confession, but they have all this evidence against him. None of that's true, and you know it. So I want to know when you're going to be a Christian, Jennifer, when you're going to actually stand by the Bible classes that you taught and all the things that you say that you stand for in your image and yada, 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 and what you've taught your kids. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Moore are innocent as fuck. They didn't kill your husband, and their lives have been completely fucking ruined. You know how much money they've probably spent? Because what? You and the department and what you think that you've done to these people? I need the Moore's attorney to get her fucking head out of her fucking ass and fucking advocate for these people. Because I'm going to start getting fucking way more vocal. Way more vocal. That 911 call after Christmas is going to be on every fucking channel. Period. Just get a divorce. There you go. Just get a divorce. And with that, guys, take yourselves on to Thanksgiving. Much love. Be kind to one another. But the Moores were 100% innocent. And yes, Grandma Gina, it's horrible what the Moores have been dealing with. Yeah, their life is ruined. Yep, Lana doesn't talk without proof. Sure don't. Amen, Lana. It ruined these folks' lives. Ruined their lives. Do you understand that people in Bonners Ferry and that area are afraid of Jennifer Drake? Oh my God, we don't want to. God, we really we know that you didn't have anything to do with this, but we can't we can't ruffle any feathers. The Mennonites think that they run this bitch. I am just so happy that the Moores are the fuck out of there because y'all are fake ass motherfuckers. You guys aren't friends. Friends don't fucking run. Here's the facts right in front of your face. The Moores are fucking innocent, and y'all should pick up the phone and fucking call them, wish them a happy Thanksgiving and a very Merry Christmas, and tell them that you're sorry. Tell them that, could you imagine how this could ever happen? Because it could happen to you if it happened to them. Dan Moore's never even had a speeding ticket. This man physically could not have killed Dr. Drake the way that they said, because it's scientifically not possible, and Scott Roeder is going to prove it to you guys, because I said, no, you know what? My word isn't enough, that I want to put Scott Roeder in that position. And he said, bring it. So we're going to bring it. Oh, can I get some of that? Let's do a shot. Happy Thanksgiving. The Moores deserve it. I'm telling you guys right now, if you are from that area and you know those people, think back. When have they ever screwed you over? When have they ever been amazing? Why in the world would fucking Dr. Moore kill Brian Drake? Oh, because he was stealing patients? The motherfucker only made 70 grand. No, Dr. Drake and his wife were all mixed up in their bullshit and their insecurities and their fake ass fucking life. And, you know, woo, scamming and ramming. That's what's going on. Heather says $31, Lana. 31. Turkey is cooked. Yay. Yeah. Eggnog. Yeah. 32. Woo. Yeah. Fuck. I love you guys. If it happened to me, I would want Lana on my side. Hell yeah. If you innocent, I will find it. And if there's something there to find, I can find it. Jennifer's only way out is to confess to the Moores. Her only way out is to... Jennifer's over there wanting the Moores. She wants Dr. Moore to sign something that says that he fucking did it. I said, this bitch has seriously lost her mind. I know that she watches my channel, you know, and maybe her friends should start watching, because they need to run. Y'all need to run because you're going down. You guys, the FBI is going to take over this investigation. I promise you that. The corruption between what Boundary County did and what Bonners Ferry did, and what I can prove and what I've put together, it's a 75-page report. And I actually have some faith. There's actually good ass law enforcement out there. You just got to find the right ones. So happy Thanksgiving, Lana, for all you do. So much fun to watch you. Oh, thank you there, Dr. Quinn. Are you really a doctor? Well, like I said, happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys. Is that mine? Can I have one? I want to chug one. I got to cheers the home team crowd, and then I'm going going to bed here. You guys, the stuff that I've put together, like this is nothing. I just hope to God that Brenner Drake is not involved. That's my only, because right now, him and Steve Minert, ugh, I think Jennifer's too cheap to hire a fucking hitman. That's the thing. So her cheap ass, unless her and Marty, plan to split it. But I just know that Jennifer's really frugal. So very frugal. But the Moors are innocent. Happy Thanksgiving. Yay. Cheers, guys. Ready? Here's to honor. If you can't come in her, come on her. Thank you, guys. Cheers. And all the mods, super chats. Cheers, Heather. I love when Heather donating to the swear jar. Need a lot. Oh, there you go. More. Thanks. I'll be broke. Oh, Miss Cat, thank you. Oh, thanks, Jesse, for donating that membership. But I think it's a pretty good live here if you want to know about the case. You get the Dateline version, and then you get the real raw version. So Debbie's loving it. A lot of good nuts out there. All right, guys, take care.
Lot of brains, you're gonna be in trouble.
This November 29th, 4 people that were murdered, and you want to fuck around. You got 8 families that are being affected by this, and they just mean nobody from the university.
Shock value. And so what he did was he had taken pictures California.
Oh, you're from I would be outraged if I lived in Moscow right now. I'd be lighting some cars on fire out there. I'd be flipping some cars. I'd get the frats going wild with me. Let's get some noise complaints going.